Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to explain example 2, lecture note 10. Now the question says that use the following grading system to grade the students. For chemistry we have it here. Now let's say we have some students, they have their grades, their mark. I'm going to give them the letter grade basically according to this range specified here. It says that if the mark is smaller than 50, use F, it's between 50, 60, D, 60, 70, C, 70, 80, B, 80, 100, A. Now, it can be 3-4 ways, but there are an easy way to solve the question. I will leave this one for the second part. I'm solving the question in two methods. First, I'm going to solve it by if and the second one I'm trying to solve it without and. I told you before that you'll be able to solve question without using and or if you know what you're doing, and sometimes maybe you're gonna need more ifs to solve the problem. Sometimes you'll be able to use with the similar if function by changing the logics. Same number of if, but changing the logics might solve the problem easier. Now before that, how many if function we need to solve the question here? The output here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. The output here has 5 options, so it might be A, B, C, D, F. So 5 option means that I need 4 if function, because inside here, remember, how do you know that how many if you need? The result that appears here, it might be A, B, C, D, F. 5 possibility. So 5 minus 1, we said it's going to be 4 if function. It's required to solve the problem. This is minimum if numbers, if functions, minimum number of if function required to solve the problem. You can use more, but less cannot solve the problem. Please, I'm not talking about ifs function. This is in 2019. You have ifs function. This is different than the if function I'm talking about here. Ifs, it's different. Basically, it's nested if. They made it easier in the new version 2019 and above, but in the old with 16, 13 is not available. So you have to use nested if to solve the problem. Now, in order to solve this one, first I'm going to use the flowchart methods to make the flowcharts to be easy for understanding. So let's say the flowchart, we're creating it here. We'll look at the table here. It says that if a number is smaller than 100, greater than 80, smaller equal to 100, greater than 80, it's going to be A. So this is a number. I cannot use OR function here. Why? Because OR, if I use OR, every number will be smaller than 100, you're going to give them A. So you have to close the range basically by AND to make sure that the number also is greater than 80. That's why we use AND function here. AND will be used for all of them. So AND, in another way to remember, AND is limiting a range. It's a closed range. For AND is a closed range. So for example, if this is 100, this is 80. If you want to be sure that between them, you have to use AND function. But the other one, for example, if it is an open range, basically it's OR. And if they are not intersecting, basically this is greater than 100 or less than, smaller than 80. Call this one OR. But this is since between two numbers, it's a range, closed range. We're going to use AND to solve the problem here. So I'll continue. If and let's say we call this as mark here, mark to be smaller equal to 100. Doesn't matter which one you're writing first, and mark, but the way you're writing it must be similar. So I mean it's 3, logic 1, 2, 3. Remember, this is we comparing mark with the sign that we have it smaller, bigger, with 100. Then we're going to write again mark to be greater than 80. Now this is the logic. I have it here, marked to be small or equal to 100, at the same time marked to be greater than 80. If this is true, I'm gonna give A. We're gonna give A here. But if this is not true, I'm gonna see that is it between 70 and 80? Is it between 70 and 80? Now, the question arises, shall I use and again? Shall I use and again? I'm going to explain this one, but let's say that we're going to use and. We're going to use and again. We might not use and, we might not need and, but let's say we're using and. This time we'll say and. I'm just changing this time to be what? Smaller or equal to 80. Smaller or equal to 80 to be greater than 70. I'm going to tell you that you may not need and here. If this is true, so if the number is not between 80 and 100, it might be between 70 and 80. In that case, 70 and 80, we're going to give B. So in this manner, we'll continue. We'll continue one by one to have all of them covered. Then, we're going to say this time, maybe it's not between 70 and 80. It's not between 70 and 80. In that case, we'll be having between 60 and 70. So I'm going to just change the mark to be, this will be 70 and this will be 60. At that time, if it's between 60 and 70, we're going to give C. Then we'll continue further. Still I need to, if it is going to be not between those mark, it might be between what? 50 and 60. This time we're checking to be marked to be smaller than 60 but greater than equal to 50. If you look at it, there is equal inside here, so equal will be here. Changing this one because greater equal, it's D. That's going to be D here. Now if this is not true, the last one will be the false, or the else we call it. The last one will be the else, which we have it here is going to be F. And that's going to be the F function and the F value. Now you realize that in each of them I used and that one was else, which is the F, gonna be the last one. Now let's see that how can I make this one. I can write this one in Excel. Writing in Excel is not going to be a problem, but let's talk about the which one comes first. Those are important to know which one comes first in order to manage the things, to know which one you're writing it. If you know which one comes first and the parentheses, then you're not making any mistakes when it goes to Excel. But if you don't know which one comes first, then from there, most probably you'll be having some mistakes in typing. Remember, we said that first the numbering is important. The if, its logic, the true value. Then the if here, the logic, then the true value. Then the if, the logic, the true value. Then the if, the logic, the true value. Then I'm going to go for the false. False here, it will be the last one. Then for the parentheses. The first one, open here. It has a true value, but the false value is if. So you're going to go for the second if. There will be second if. There's a parenthesis for the second if. And the second if has a true value, but the false value is another if. So another parenthesis. Another parenthesis will be opened here. Then that if also has a true value, but its false value, again it's an if. I will be having another parenthesis. Now the last if, it has a true value, it has a false value, so that it will be closed. Then Since all of this part, it's a false value for this one, it's time to close the orange one as well. Then look at the orange one, the parenthesis for the orange one, I'm closing it. It is all a false value for this, for the second if, so I'm going to close that one as well. Then if this is brown, the brown one, it is all of it. When I say all of it, because it is the starting of the if, the true value is inside it. All of it, it is a false value for this if. Now it's time to close the first if parenthesis. So you realize that I'm closing all the parentheses at the end. 4 parentheses at the end will be closed for the 4 if I had the beginning. Now writing this one, remember, and when you open the parenthesis for the and, make sure you're closing it directly when the logic finish. For example, here you opened, you close it directly. Don't mix this one with the if functions parentheses. For example, when you're writing a function, don't forget to close the parentheses as well. Now, let's see, how can I make this one simpler? How can I make this one simpler? Okay, we started with an and. And if and, which is marked to be smaller, equal to 100. So we're checking to see if the mark is smaller equal to 100 and it's greater than 80. Now when something is true, it means that it is above 80, isn't it? Look, this true here means above 80. So if the false here, remember I told you false always contain something. The false here, what does it mean? There's 2 probability, yes? So probability of if the number is greater than 100. Look, if I neglect that case, if I neglect that the mark is greater than 100, no one was going to give you greater than 100, so this is not possible in this condition. Yes, this is not possible. But remember, if the mark is greater than 100, it's still going to come here. Why? Because we said that mark to be smaller equal to 100. If you remove this one, in that case, anything above 80 will be A. Maybe some teacher was going to give 105 to the student, still going to be A, not going to be more than A. Let's say neglect the case that mark will be greater than 100. Now, when the value will not be true here, the false means that the mark, it is smaller than, which is smaller equal to, yes, it is smaller equal to 80. I need you to understand what I'm saying. When we say that, check, we say please Excel check if the mark is smaller equal to 100, at the same time the mark greater than 80. Now let's say if 79 smaller than 100, yes, the first one is true, but the second one, 79, is not bigger than 100, so the second one will be true. And we know that in AND function both of them must be true in order the value to be true. So since one of them false, it's going to come here. So you realize that the mark, when it passes here, it's already smaller equal to 100. So do I need to check this one here? Do I need to check this one? I already know that the mark is smaller than equal to 100. So you realize that I can change those AND here, make them more simplified. I don't need AND here. I can simply simplify it to say that just if the mark is above 70. I already know that it's smaller equal to 80. So I can simply change this one, remove this one here. Why? Because I know that the mark, when it comes inside this loop, is already smaller equal to 80. Then here, if I don't write, no need for writing this one, is because smaller equal to 80 is already, we know it. Now here, so I don't need even AND here. This is enough. Mark to be greater than 70. Now, if the mark is not greater than 70, it means that equal or less than 70. So the one that will be equal less than 70, it's going to be in the false value again. So the false value contain this logic. So when it comes to inside the if, I realize that I don't need this one again. So I don't need even AND. Why? Because one logic, no need for AND. And again, the false value for this case here will contain Because we check what? We will check that if the mark is greater than 60. So smaller equal to 60 is going to come here, the false. Again, here I don't need to check this one here. So realize that I can make it much easier if I understand which number goes where. I only needed AND in the first time, basically because I want to make sure it's smaller than 100. Remember, if you don't care about the 100, if you want any number above 80, you can just simply remove this one as well. So no, don't mix this one, it's not going to come here as a number to be. So in this case, but there is a problem only for 100. If I put 120, it's not here, it's going to give it B. Why? Because it's going to be bigger than 70, it's going to be B. If there is 105, look at the problem that I'm facing it here. What? If I remove those, the AND in here, those AND, if I remove it, what will happen? If there is a number 105. 105 is not here, it's going to come here. Is 105 greater than 70? Yes, it's going to be B. So we know that there is something, but the AND basically, even 105, if there is an AND, still, none of them is going to give the F. So you realize that 105 or mark above 100 is not a part of this, not a part of this one. If you remove this one here, yes, 105 will be above 80, that's going to be A, no problem. So I can make it much easier by removing the AND. Just simply say that if mark greater than 80, give A, greater than 70, B, greater than 60, C, greater than 50, equal to 50 will be D, then less smaller. But remember, the way we wrote it, first will be checked with 80. If it is not above 80, then we'll check it with above 70. Because we know that this is contain the value smaller than 80. So you realize that I can solve this problem without even using AND, but by managing in a way that we are restricting the numbers to follow the way that we want it. I could start from the beginning, yes. I could start from the mark 50. I could say that if the mark is smaller than 50, give it if. But there I will be having a problem. Now some students, they think in this way. They say, okay, can we solve this one from the beginning? Let me just copy this one. They say, what will happen if I start from the beginning? Let's say I'm saying that if the mark, look, I'm not trying to use AND. If the mark is smaller than 50, smaller than 50, we're going to give F. We're going to give F. Smaller than 50 is F. But if the false value here contain any number greater or equal to 50, greater or equal to 50, when it comes here, what I have to write? Because we know that a number, when passes through this false, it is greater or equal to 50. Now I'm supposed to check the upper limit here. Why? I have to check that if inside here, if I write mark, so I'm checking the mark, if the mark is smaller equal to 60. Why? Because I already know that it is, when it comes here, it's greater equal to 50. I'm checking if it's smaller equal to 50, then that's going to be D. Then when it comes here, this time I will say what? I will say that if the mark, if the mark this time is smaller equal to 70, that's going to be C by itself. Then in that time, if it is, I can write the other one, so if mark is smaller equal to 80, that case we're going to give B here. If not, we're going to give A. Now if number is 105, still be A here, yes? Why? Because first we'll check if it's smaller than 50, come here. If it's not smaller than 50, means greater than equal to 50, will come here. Then we'll check, is it smaller than 60? Yes, we'll give it D. If not, we'll go here. So in this manner, I will filter it basically. Any number that you have it will reach to the way it's supposed to be. Now this is one way. We said with the AND I could do it, and the other one we said that we remove the ANDs and we just simply use mark greater than 80. I could still solve the problem, but still I need 4 if to solve the problem. Without, like, less than 4 if cannot solve the problem. Why? Because 1 2 3 4 5 output, I need it here to solve the problem. I have it here. Now even though that the case I have it here seems the logics to be something like this, but remember, if you understand the flowchart, if you know that the numbers, like how do you give a barrier or the restriction for the numbers to follow the way that you want it, then you don't need and. Look at here. Remember, the numbers that's smaller than 50 comes here. Something greater than 50 will go there. Then you're gonna say, is it smaller than 60? If it's smaller than 60, you send it here. If not, you'll say, okay, go there. There's another check. Is it smaller than 70? If it's there, we're gonna give it here. Why? Because you know that a number when it passes, so let's make a number when past here, it means that it is greater equal to 50. That's why it will not be true. The false here, it's like this. The false here means that the mark is greater than 50. There is no equal because equal is in the 60. So greater than 60 means it's in the false. So it's greater than 60. I'm checking to be smaller than 70. That's enough. Then if it does not, it means that when it passes here, we know that the mark is greater than 70. And for the last one, we know that the mark when it passes here, when it's false, we know the mark is greater than 80. So you realize that the false value, the false contain a logic, and if you understand that logic, you'll be able to manage the things much easier. So let's say we're writing this one in Excel. I'm writing it for 1 and using autofilling, since we know that autofilling can be used for the functions here. Doesn't matter, let's say I'm using the AND function, the AND one. So I'm using AND, all AND, to at least have some idea how to manage the parentheses. Now, and the logic is this one to be smaller equal to 100. Then again, this one to be greater than 80. This is for A. I'm closing the parenthesis for AND. Now, because AND is open. AND is open and is active. Close the parenthesis, then the if will be active. Say this is the logical test. If this is true, give them A. I cannot write A like this. Why? Because A is text. I have to use quotation mark. Remember that? It's a quotation mark. A text. A, it's a text. It's not calculation, so you have to use quotation mark. If this is not true, another if. Now, I'm going to teach you something. Since I'm repeating this one, I can just simply select it like this. Like I can select even like this, all of it. Control C and bring it here, Control V. I'll say, and if this time what? This will be 80. This will be 70. How easily you can finish them? And it's going to be B. Then, Control V again. This time will be 70. And that's going to be 60. And it's going to be C. Then again, this time I'll be having 60 here, 50 here, but with 50 we know that there is an equal. 50, there is an equal here. I'm adding an equal. Then this will be D. And we know that we don't need any other if, because 1 if, 2 if, 3 if, 4 if, that's enough. The last one will be the F value. Now remember, this is 1, 2, 3 part. So it's time to close the parenthesis here. Let's check again. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm inside the second if. There is 1 part, 2 part, 3 part. So it's time to close that one as well. And Excel uses coloring. So for example, the coloring sometimes is not clear, but this is, I believe the first one was somehow green. It's green. This one purple, and this one about kind of seems to be red, I don't know, and the other one it's black. So now where we are, let's check. We are inside this if. There's a logic, there is a value if true, and this is value false. It's time to close the parenthesis for that one as well. Then when you close the parenthesis, it will come back to other if. There's a logic here. If this logic is true, it's A. If not, it's going to go inside all of the other ifs, which is the false value for the first if. It's time to close the parenthesis for that if as well. When you close the parenthesis, nothing is active, so you know that everything properly closed. Hit enter, it's going to calculate. Then use autofilling. So use autofilling to get the others students. So if you have 100 students, you're writing the function 1, just autofill the rest of them, and you're going to get the numbers there. Any number changes here, you realize that the functions automatically update itself according to the values we have it, according to the range that we have it there. Now remember, you could solve this problem without using f by this manner, and it will be still true. Remember, when we say true, means that any condition, any possibilities that if the input contain any possibility, your function give the correct answer, it is correct. So no one says that it is not working. So remember, the logics, you are defining it here. Sometimes define the small logics, still gonna work. No need to go for the big logics if you cannot understand what you're doing there. Try to make the smaller logic with more ifs to solve the problem in order not to have any mistakes there. I know it's not easy when the things go a lot of if function, but I believe that if you practice in the way that with this flowchart, no need, by the way, no need to write this flowchart in a nice way, just do it fast. Just write if this is the logic, then come here, just make it like sketch. I don't need you to create this one for me. This is, I am doing it for you to understand the way that it's working. So if it's not here, goes there, if it's not here, goes there, one by one, to know how does it work. Because in Excel, it's just a single line. It's a single line, goes in this manner. Now, I'm going to use another technique here. I believe I haven't explained. I told you that I'm going to explain, but I forgot. Let me explain that method here. Now, I'm going to use, if I don't want to put all the ifs inside each other. So I'm going to use a technique. Let's say this is for A, this is for B, this is for C, this is for D, this is for F, and I can see the result here. The result, let's see if we're gonna, this is all of them together. But let's say, can I do it alone? Can I separate the if functions and remember linking them to each other? Because when we say nested if, each if is linked to the other one. If the first if logic is not true, then the second if is starting. Remember, if the first if's logic is not true, which is false, then the second if is gonna start. If the first if logics are correct, the answer will be A. But if it's not correct, then go for the second if. In this manner, go for the third one. If the third one is not correct, go for the fourth one. So how can I manage this one outside, step by step? Now, I can do it for A, B, C, D, for the grading system one by one. I can say if I'm using and, let's say I'm keeping with the and. If and the number is smaller or equal to 100. If the number is smaller or equal to 100 and the number is greater than 80, then what to do? Closing the parenthesis for and, then this result is A. Now, for the result of the false, I'm not gonna write anything. Or I can just write 0 here. Or I can write by myself false. Don't write anything, write something, it's gonna be still the same, because I'm gonna use this output here for the other ones. Now let's say I'm gonna use 0 here. Let's be false is better. Now I'm closing the parenthesis, hit enter. Now if this number is 20, that's gonna be false, yes? What does false mean? It's not A. I can write it like this. I can write it not A. It's still possible, yes? If this has became 80, still not A, it will be 82. It's gonna be A. 10, it says not A. It's up to you. Let's say I'm keeping it simple. False. False for me is something. I could use 0. 0 is the easiest one, but let's say that. Oh, sorry, I couldn't write. False. Let's keep it false. Now, the number is 50. It gives me false here. Yes, it's not this one. Then I'm going to go for the second one. I'll say if this one here. Can I read it like this? If this one here. So I have to use what? I'm going to use AND function again. If the first one is false. If the first one is false, then the number, look, I add another logic inside here because I have to relay this if function on the first one. I'll say if the first one, using AND, if it is false, the number, this one, is for B, is supposed to be greater than 8, smaller equal to 80, and the number to be greater than 70. Now look at this if here. This if depends on the first if and the logics that we have it. This is the logic we know it. This is the logic that we know it before. Because we know this one from here when the number is smaller equal to 80 greater than 70 is going to be. But I had to relate it to the first one because I wanted this one to work when it is false. That's why I added another logic to the AND to say if this one false, then that's going to be B. You realize that I can use this manner. Then if this is not true, I'm going to use false again. Why? Because I want everything to be similar. False. Then I'm going to close the parenthesis. Look, if this is 75, the first one will be false, but the second one will be B. Then I can just simply copy this one. It is the same for the rest of them. Why? Because I am relating C to B, relating D to C, relating F to D, and that's going to everything go in this way. Let's say that I'm saying this time like this, but I'm relating this time this to be false, and the number to be 70 here, 60 here, and that's going to be C. That's going to be C here. If not, it's going to be false. Look, the number will not be. Why? Because this is not false. It's going to be false. Then I'm going to do it for here as well, but this time we're going to relate it to C because we're not going to go to D unless C is false. Unless C is false. Then this is false. If the number this time to be, for C it's supposed to be 60, to be, this is, let me just come back here. Okay, this is greater than 60, smaller than, this is going to be smaller than 60, but greater than 50, and equal is inside here. That's going to be D. If not, will be false. For the last one, we have it here. Let me write this one alone. I'm going to write this one easier. In which case, we're going to have F. If all of them false, yes, if all of them false, I can say this is if. So I can write an AND function, if this one is equal to false, the second one is equal to false, then the third one, if it is false, when I'm checking here, I'm checking if all of them are false. It means that it's not A, not B, not C, not D. Sure, will be gonna be the F. So I'm saying if all of them, look, I'm using AND here, remember. Why? Because I want all of them to be false. Then, and I'm closing, this is false, and then mistakes in writing, yes. If all of them false, then I want it to be F. If not, I'm gonna say false here as well. False. For this case, I'm closing the parenthesis. Now let's check here. This is, we know the result. So if I write, let's say I'm just gonna use this one for do it like this. Like I say, for example, this is F, only F appearing, this is only C appearing, this is only B appearing, this is F appearing, this is D appearing, and this is A appearing. Let's make this one the same as the others to be nice. So I realized that I could do this one outside of the functions there. Now I can write another if function to bring whatever it is there, but that's going to be harder. But you realize that I can calculate things with this way. Now instead of 0, instead of false, I could make this one 0, but that will be easier for me. Look, if I leave it empty, what will happen by itself will be false. So that's why I said don't write it. Write false is going to be the same, because directly will give you the false by itself. You realize that? Now the problem I have it here, the logic here has to be something different. I'm not talking about this one is. There is another way. It's another way to do it. So leave it, because for us we're checking with the false as a text, so that, but if you don't write it, Excel by itself is going to give you false, but the false here I cannot use it for the second logic. If I want to use it, there is another function we called is error or is false. That's something else, we're not covering it here. And instead of false, I could use 0 here. That still be possible. Then the following things I'll check with 0 here. Then how to combine all of them together or bring the things here, I can make it as, that's going to be longer, but I mean that it can be done. If you want to bring the number here, you have to write some set of another if functions, bring the number or this letter here. Sometimes this is for calculation can be okay. Why? For calculation you can leave it blank. Look, I can leave it blank, and then inside here I will see if it is blank. So I'm not going to see those false. Look, in this manner I am checking with blank, and the false I'm all leaving them blank. It will be easier for me. Why? Because I don't want to see false. What does false means here? Just leave it blank. And you realize that only the one that, and here as well, instead of writing equal to false, I can just simply equal to blank. If they're equal to blank, it means that I have, remember the logics, it's up to you. Leaving blank would be the easiest condition I have it here. Then I can just simply autofill for the rest of them. Now the false, there's something appearing here. Sorry, I didn't change this false here. That's supposed to be. Now you realize that only the letters that it is corresponding the grade will appear there. B, F, C, B, F, D, A. So when you change something here, for example, to 80 to 89, so it's going to be A, and then same thing A here. How we can easily use this technique, for example, to bring it here, we can just simply say this is equal to this one with a concatenation mark, something like this. This one, this, because we know that the rest of them will be blank. Let's see how does it look like. Plus this one, if it's working here, that's going to bring it for me directly there, because the rest of them are this end means that combine this with this with them, bring it here for me. Since they are blank, the blanks will not make any sense. Only the one with text is going to bring it there. This is called and. We're using it, this one and the other one, combining them together, and I can simply, here all the ifs are inside each other. Here each if is alone, but the second if, it's depending on this one and the condition by itself. This one depends on the second if. Remember, this is depend on this one. Look, here I use 5 if. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if I use it. 5 if I use it instead of 4 ifs nested inside each other. I used 5 separate ifs and I got the same result. Some students might like this one, it's up to you. And if you don't like this one, to see them, look how easily I can just remove, not removing them, you can select the columns. Selecting column means that you can come over here when you see the arrow like this, hold it and select all of them, right click and just simply hide it. You're not going to see any of those columns there. Whenever you change the number, yeah, I didn't delete them, they are there, they are between G and M, look, they are there, but I don't want to see them. That case, I can do a lot of calculation and just simply hide the columns and I'll still be having the result beside the place that I wanted. If you prefer the one nested if inside each other, if you know what you're doing it, go for nested if. If not, you're allowed to go for the other ways that do ifs separately, then combine them together to get the result at the end. I believe this is the end of the lecture notes that we have. Oh no, we have another example. Okay, another example. We're gonna use a different way to solve it. I'm not gonna, there is a way inside here. We're gonna use different way. It's an easy way. Show it to you how to solve this example as well. Now it's gonna be another video for example 3. Then the extra examples will come. Thanks for watching.